Week 12 of college football is in the books, and it had some Pac-12 thrillers, some surprising finishes, and a devastating injury. We're going to talk about all that and more, but what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content as always. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. And special thanks to today's sponsor, Manscaped. You get 20% off plus free shipping when you use promo code Broshmo at checkout. It's a great way to support the channel and to get your boys looking good. Let's go ahead, get into my top 25. First with the teams that just missed it. And yes, you see Iowa there. That's kind of a puzzler, right? Because I don't really think Iowa's particularly a good team this year. But as of now, they hold the tiebreaker over everyone else in the Big Ten West. So, like Purdue, they're right now on the outside looking in because they lost 24-3 to Iowa earlier in the year. So, basically, what needs to go down for Purdue to get into the Big Ten championship game, because we know they're going to be facing winner of Michigan versus Ohio State. So what Purdue needs to happen, they need to win against Indiana this upcoming week and have Iowa lose to Nebraska. I think there's a good chance we're going to be seeing Iowa get slaughtered in the Big Ten championship game. And it felt kind of dirty putting Iowa and Purdue here. Really wish I could have just put them as one, is what it is. Texas was kind of on the outside looking in here, so I just want to mention Texas. They went ahead and I think they mollywopped was it Kansas this past week, so good for them. I think Texas is a good squad. I think maybe they creep back into the top 25 before the season's through. But Boise, a team that's really turned it around after kind of like fumbling out of the gates to start the year. They fired the OC there. But they really have turned it around. They currently are first in the Mountain West. They got past a very tough Wyoming team, 20-17. And right now it's looking like they're probably going to face Fresno State or San Diego State. So I think there's a good chance it's going to be San Diego State, because Fresno actually has to go and face Boise in the season finale. So we'll see with that one, but Boise, they've been playing good football after the rough start. And then South Carolina had the biggest win of the season, and they earned it. They didn't win that game because Hendon Hooker ended up getting hurt, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. They won. They were up like I think already like 18 points by the time the injury occurred. What they did was slaughter that Tennessee defense. Slaughtered them. Legit. Like Jaheim Hines, man, I love how they're using Jaheim Hines in this game. Jaheim Bell, there we go. Jaheim Bell, like they gave him 17 carries. He was still a big part of the passing game there. Spencer Rattler threw 6 TDs. Like, this South Carolina team, they may be a mid SEC team, but like straight up, man, like they won this one. Big home victory for South Carolina. And then Troy, I really think Troy will be the team facing Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Championship game. Keep in mind they have the win over South Alabama in the Sun Belt. What's the other Sun Belt division called? In the Sun Belt West division. So basically South, and to be fair, like neither team next week, they're not facing like their season finales aren't like hard games in particular. As we go see, I believe Troy has Arkansas State, while South Alabama has ODU. So South Alabama needs Troy to lose next week. That doesn't happen. It'll be Troy versus Coastal Carolina. Though it's not set in stone. Like James Madison faces Coastal Carolina in the season finale. At least for, I know it's the season finale for Coastal. But, I mean, I guess we could talk about Coastal when we get to the top 25. No, it'll also be the season finale for James Madison. Okay. So, like, honestly, James Madison could edge them out. Like, at that point, they both have the same conference record, and tiebreaker goes to the winner. So that's going to be interesting. But let's go ahead and talk about my faller on the list. And yes, I said faller, only one being NC State, as they got passed by Louisville, who didn't have Malik Cunningham because of injuries, so they lost the backup quarterback. They also, like, Louisville also had some injuries in the backfield as well. But let's be honest about this Wolfpack team. They were kind of on the dissension ever since the Devin Leary injury. Being losing your top quarterback, it's gonna be rough. But it didn't just stop there. They entered the game without their backup there at MJ Morris. So Chambers, who started the game, ended up getting benched early. So they were on literally QB4 there. Also, Peyton Wilson and Grant Gibson didn't play in this game. So, yeah, it sucks. But, I mean, injuries have kind of ravaged NC State. So it was only a matter of time before they fell out of my top 25. But let's go ahead, go to my top 25 with Central Florida. They fall not because they lost, but because they lost to a team that didn't complete one pass in the game. Navy threw one ball and it went for an incompletion. Now, I get it that Plumlee wasn't necessarily injured in this game. Plumlee, not really benched. Like, they were kind of questioned. Like, he was dealing with an injury from last week, and they were kind of questioning, like, if his shoulder was good to go. So they felt like, you know what, let's just go with the backup quarterback, see if we get a spark in the second half. Obviously, it did a few things, but, I mean, it was a close loss, if you could say anything. It was a close loss to Navy, and it really only sparked one scoring drive for Central Florida. So it's like, hopefully Plumlee gets healthy, because this team, they're going to be facing the winner of Cincinnati versus Tulane in the American Conference Championship game. Since Central Florida already has wins over both those squads, they're in as long as they beat South Florida, which they're a one-win team. Fired their coach like a month ago. Like, that should be an easy victory for all intents and purposes, but never say never. Never say never. But even if they if they lose that game, yeah, they're out. But I just can't see them losing that game. The Beavers, they finally get into my top 25. This is a team with moxie. This is a team with grit. They play really good defense, and they're doing this with their backup quarterback, who honestly is playing good ball. And they railroad Arizona State 31-7. Good for them. Here they are. Coastal Carolina. So Coastal Carolina was supposed to face Virginia this week, and they canceled the game because if you didn't know, Virginia had a shooting that killed for their players, so they decided to cancel the game. Obviously, thoughts and prayers out to the families, the victims there. Sucks, but with Coastal Carolina, they finished the year against James Madison. Winner of that will go on to face likely Troy. So that's kind of wild that I didn't realize James Madison was still that in it. So, yeah, like, that's a must-win. And keep in mind, they have no Grayson McCall. So, we'll see what happens to Coastal Carolina. Then UTSA, they continue to run roughshod over the conference USA, as this past week they demolished, who was it? Rice, 41-7, and yeah, I mean they're in. The next two teams have 2 losses in the conference. They will face honestly, they will face in likelihood North Texas in the Conference USA Championship game. I'm trying to see here because Western Kentucky, they Western Kentucky, I want to say I feel is the better team, but they got smacked by North Texas. But so North Texas has the tiebreaker. All North Texas has to do is beat Rice coming up. So they should be able to do that. So, but I think they're basically just at this point, you're going to be fighting the right to get smacked by UTSA, man. UTSA is putting up banger games recently. Like they're just demolishing teams. They got UTEP this week. And then Ole Miss stumbles down the rankings because they got smacked by Arkansas. Arkansas was leading this game 35-6 at halftime. Really, this Ole Miss team didn't put offense together until the fourth quarter, and that was really just to make it look closer than it really was. This Ole Miss team, I felt like was better. I feel like they've performed under my expectations despite being 8-3. I feel like they just haven't performed to my expectations. Like, the offense started slow. The defense is just getting walked over. And I feel like they got good players there. I don't know really what's up. They got the running game going. They ran for over like 400 yards. But it means nothing if you're down like 30 points going into halftime. So, yeah, Ole Miss, big faller here. But I think they were my biggest fallers of the week. On to the next slate as we got Cincinnati. As we can talk about both Cincinnati and Tulane, because they will be facing off this week to see who faces, allegedly, Central Florida for the championship in the American Championship game. Let me be sure Houston can't get in on this action. Can they? Does Houston have... No, they can't. Yeah, no, Houston can't get in on this. Because they already have the loss to Tulane. They don't face Cincinnati this year, so they don't exactly have a tiebreaker with Cincinnati. Basically, if they're to make it, because I really don't think they have a shot at making it, but a lot of things would have to go in their favor. Houston was who I thought was going to win the American this year, and they've just had a few things just not go their way this year. Despite the offense being very, very good for Houston, the defense just has not been. It really hasn't. But, yeah, enough about that. Tulane, they smacked SMU Thursday night, and then Cincinnati, I believe... Who did Cincinnati face? Temple. They smacked Temple. And now they get to face off against one another, and I can't wait. That's going to be a crazy matchup. It happens Friday night at 10 a.m. But, I mean, to be fair, it's the day after Thanksgiving. So, yeah, if you're not doing any Black Friday shopping, then go ahead and watch that game. I will be. It's going to be a banger. And then Florida State, man, they went in. They smacked... Really, who was it? Louisiana, right? Smacked them. Freaking offense looks beautiful. I honestly feel like this Florida State team deserves another crack at Clemson, but unfortunately, they play in the Atlantic Division. I feel like this Florida State team's like the second best team in the conference, not North Carolina, and we'll talk about North Carolina a little bit later. So it just kind of sucks for Florida State, man. They had a few unfortunate losses this year. Some of it because of injury, like you go to the Louisville game where they had their top offensive player and top defensive player leave the game before halftime. So unfortunately, they were able to get those guys back. But big win. In terms of big, I mean they scored a lot of points. It wasn't like they were facing juggernaut. They get Florida though. That's gonna be that could be a fun game. And then, kind of already talked about Tulane, got them here at 17. And then UCLA, man, that was a heartbreaker. Dorian Thompson Robinson, DTR. We're going to go with that. Didn't have his best game of the year, but he's such a threat. He was able to keep this UCLA in that ball game. But unfortunately, in the final moments of the game, came down to another poor decision by DTR, throwing that around the right hash, and just not seeing the linebacker creeping in that zone. And interception. All USC has to do is knee the ball, and they did. So unfortunate way for UCLA to end the year with losses to Arizona, got caught looking ahead, and then losing a nail biter against USC, man. My heart goes out to UCLA. On to the top 15, Utah. Utah, man, they hung around in that game against Oregon. They really did. The offense just couldn't get going enough. And honestly, the defense, I thought, did a very good job against Oregon in this game. But they end up losing. I think it was like final score was 20-17. So unfortunate, Utah officially are out of the Pac-12 title picture. And then North Carolina, they were up 17, right? I believe they were up 17 to Georgia Tech. And then just fell apart. Yeah, they were up 17-0, and they allowed Georgia Tech to score 21 unanswered points. Probably the most heartbreaking part came when stinking Josh Downs, Mr. Sure Hands, drops the go-ahead touchdown. That was really demoralizing. Drake May ends up not throwing for a touchdown for the first time this season. So yeah, North Carolina, you're officially out of the playoff race. The hopes were low anyway, but you're officially out of it. Fortunately, you will still go on to face Clemson in the ACC championship game, since Pittsburgh and Duke. I think Pittsburgh ended up winning against Duke anyway. So Pittsburgh, they have 3 losses. There's no way North Carolina can be outed for that spot. So Notre Dame, man, they crushed Boston College. And honestly, Notre Dame, they moved up some significant spots. I think they've been playing really good football since the beginning of the year. Since that rough start to the season, where after that loss to Marshall and that close win to Cal, this team's really turned around the narrative around what they are. Yeah, they had the bad, the close loss to Stanford, but I mean, since that they smacked Syracuse, they smacked Clemson, basically. I mean, they may as well join the ACC with the way they were smacking ACC teams. They smacked Boston College. I know they had the Navy game close, but to be fair, Navy just beat a top 25 team in Central Florida. So just going to say that. So, and I mean, this is a team I think that they're finally clicking on offense. They get USC. This is the real test here. I mean, Ohio State obviously was a test at the beginning of the year, but now that this team knows what they're doing, they got to put together. They get USC. You can legitimately crush USC's playoff hopes in this game. So let's see if Notre Dame's for real. I imagine it's still going to be a pretty close game. I can't wait for that one next week. I believe it is. Is it in South Bend? No, it's at the Coliseum. So they're gonna have to travel. And then Washington still technically has a shot at the Pac-12 championship game. And I believe the only way they get in is if Oregon loses to Oregon State, which is something, if you didn't know, my 24th ranked Beavers can do. I really think they can. They could definitely upset Oregon and crush Oregon's dreams. Right now, I believe I don't know how any tiebreaker would work with USC since they didn't play them this year. Then again, I mean, you look at Washington's losses. I mean, they lost to UCLA, and that was a team USC just beat. So I don't know how that all would shape up and work out. But legitimately, they have the tiebreaker over Oregon. They just need Oregon to lose that game. Washington, I think, closes the year against, I don't think anyone important. Or is it Washington State? Yeah, it's the, what is it, the Apple Cup? that is. But yeah, like they win that game. Oregon loses. They have similar, or they have both will be 7-2 in conference play. Washington has the tiebreaker, so it's possible. It's possible for Washington. Penn State, legitimately the third best team in the Big Ten, and it's not even close. It's just a shame that Michigan and Ohio State, two top 3 teams in the country, play in not just their conference but division. Penn State's a good squad, man. They're a good squad, and I don't know, man. Maybe one day they'll be back. On to the top 10. Alabama moves up. They had like Austin. They had some small school. They demolished them. They had the starters were out. Was it I think before halftime potentially? But listen, this is an Alabama team that knows that they won't be competed for the SEC championship game. There's no way they can make the playoff. Kind of is what it is. Unfortunate that their 2 losses this season came so close to the wire. In that Tennessee game, the kick that in the game to win it for Tennessee, and then the LSU game in OT. It's like, man, you just like look at that and it's like, man, Alabama was so close. But hey, let's get some fresh blood in this playoff. Oregon, tight win over Utah. Now, if they beat Oregon State, they clinch their spot in the Pac-12 championship game against USC. And then we have Tennessee. Let's talk about it. Hendon Hooker, unfortunately, goes down to a non-contact knee injury, ends up being the ACL. He's out for the year. I'm going to talk later today about that on the stock report on what the draft implications for that will be. But this ends Tennessee's playoff hopes. I think what makes matters worse is I think there's a shot they lose their season finale as well. Because isn't it against Vandy? The hot Vandy team. And it's at Vandy. They have to travel to Vandy and face this team that is just now, after not being able to win games in the SEC for years, they have won back to back. They beat Kentucky and then they beat Florida. I'm just saying, with no Hendon Hooker and the way the defense played Saturday, it's not a long shot that they could lose that game. It really isn't. But yeah, man, really sad. It was a sucky way to end the year. Hendon Hooker went out when they were still down 18. I think it was in the third. But I mean, if anyone was going to mount a comeback, it would have been Hendon Hooker. And unfortunately, after that injury, things just continued to get out of hand as they end up losing 63-38. Tennessee defense was atrocious. They made the South Carolina team look really good. And well, I think South Carolina they're a fine SEC team. There we go. They honestly, they didn't feel like they should have been on Tennessee's level, but they showed us, man. Big win for South Carolina before they have to go against it's Clemson, right? They finished the year against Clemson. Watch out, man. Clemson, that's another team with playoff hopes. Maybe South Carolina's just playing spoiler. All right, on to LSU. They ran over UAB. They end the year with Texas A&M, which Texas A&M Texas A&M smashed UMass, but it didn't look that pretty. It really didn't. So Texas A&M's a team no one's taking serious. Though they did beat my Hurricanes, so oh well. Hurricanes are bad anyway. They always are. But LSU will go on to the SEC championship game, and there is a chance for them to get that 4th seed. Like, if you beat Georgia, like, I don't know if you could hold the SEC champs out. Because, like, you're obviously going to still include Georgia. The winner of Michigan, Ohio State because they're also whoever wins that game likely wins the Big Ten. You'll have Georgia. You'll have the winner of the Big Ten. TCU, like they just seem a team destined. So I feel like TCU. I don't believe their schedule outside of the conference championship game, which will be against Kansas State. I'm trying to think who they end the year with. Because we'll talk about TCU on that game. Freaking wild. Iowa State. So they should win that game. Iowa State's defense is pretty solid, though. Unfortunately, their offense isn't. But let's say TCU. And then, because if TCU goes undefeated, then it's like, yeah, they have to make it. So you're looking at this fourth spot. And like it's like you're a 2-loss team. You win the SEC championship. The ACC, say Clemson wins all out, or even USC, they go all out. They win their conference title. They're only a 1-loss team. I don't know, man. Georgia, this is getting weird. Like Georgia, you don't win your conference championship, but you have 1 loss and it happens to be in the conference championship. Like, I don't know, man. Things are going to get real weird. Things can get real weird with this. So let's go ahead and move on. Clemson, they smacked... who did they smack? Can't remember off the top of my head. They smacked some team. This is why I try to put it in the back of my head. They smacked my Hurricanes. Pfft. Golly, tried to bury that one, right? Ugh, I didn't want to know. DJ Uiagalelei looked good in this game, but I mean it's the Hurricanes. They closed the year with South Carolina, who might be playing spoiler, but then they'll go on to face North Carolina. Like you can win out, and now with Tennessee down, like there are chances because only one could make it between Michigan and Ohio State. So now you're battling South Carolina potentially for that other spot. But like I said, things could get messy with LSU if they win the SEC. So now you could be battling USC for that final spot, who their only loss on the season was a close one against Utah. While Clemson, your loss came when you got paddywhacked by Notre Dame. And fun fact, USC ends the season with Notre Dame. So if they win that game, Clemson, I feel like, has really no case to go over the Pac-12 winner if USC wins all out. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They need a lot of things going their way. They need, honestly, if USC either loses the Pac-12 championship game or against Notre Dame, they don't need both those. They just need one of those to happen. That could just make the way for Clemson to sneak in as the 4th seed. So things will get interesting. On to the top 5, USC. They get by UCLA with an impressive performance by Caleb Williams. The guy's playing really good football. And heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. I think I projected USC to actually win the Pac-12 this year. So it's good to see them doing well. They have to close out. You have to beat Notre Dame, and you have to win the Pac-12. And then you will be that 4th team in. So Lincoln Riley in his first year potentially gets this team to the playoffs. There you go. And then TCU. If you didn't see the game, Baylor controlled this game. They were running all over TCU. TCU, their first touchdown, honestly, I think, no, it was their second touchdown, right? No, it was their first touchdown. Should have never happened. It should have went to a 4th down. Instead, it was like 3rd down, and basically Baylor got called for pass interference on an uncatchable, legitimately a very uncatchable ball. Should have led to 4th down, should have led to the field goal. But whatever, sometimes things don't go your way. TCU, they missed the extra point, and suddenly they have to get a 2-point conversion. They missed the 2-point convert, or that missed extra point means they had to go for the 2-point conversion later in the game. They miss it. They're down 2. They get the ball back. They're driving. They get in field goal range. But I crap you not. They don't have timeouts. They run to, I guess, to center up the field goal. And they have to run out the field goal squad as time's ticking away. And they get the ball off just in time, hit the field goal. I thought TCU was going down. I really did. Also, don't bet Baylor games. I took TCU with the points. They were -1.5. That missed extra point screwed me. Oh, it really did. And I mean, on top of that, the missed 2-point conversion as well. I have literally lost any Baylor bet this year. What, like, it stems from when I picked them on the money line against BYU to this game. I'm just bad at betting Baylor. I don't think I'm ever touching Baylor again. I think Baylor might be my most hated team now because of this year. They have ruined many parlays for me. But good on TCU, man. TCU's been putting out some banger games this year. We got the battle against Michigan, Ohio State. Number 2 and number 3. Winner will likely be your Big Ten champions and will secure a playoff spot. I think the biggest thing to note here is Blake Corum getting hurt. Like, we saw how little that Michigan offense was nothing without Blake Corum against Illinois. They were nothing. JJ McCarthy was missing throws left and right. Legit probably missed what could have been the go-ahead touchdown. Tight end wide open, just get it to him. He walks into the end zone, and instead he overthrows it by like a couple of yards, man. Without Corum, I don't think this team can get it done. It sounds like with him, he will be back. Sounds like he is prepared to play this week, or he is at least planning on playing this week, which would be good news for Michigan. But I'm not gonna lie, I kind of lean Ohio State, who I think got caught looking ahead a little bit Saturday against Maryland. I mean, they still got the job done. I don't think the game was ever in doubt, but still, it was something a bit. I thought it was a bit interesting that Maryland made it a fairly close game, and then Georgia, they did enough. They legit did enough to beat Kentucky. Will Levis, basically, just Will Levis. That was about it. Kentucky was up Georgia was up 16 points for like the whole second half until Kentucky got the touchdown, I guess kind of in the mid of the fourth quarter. They missed on the 2-point conversion, but like the way this offense was, it was never in doubt for me. It really wasn't. They couldn't get the run game going. No kidding. This is one of the best defenses in college football, even without Nolan Smith. But yeah, Georgia. Like, I really think, because who do they end the year with? Georgia Tech, right? And again, Georgia Tech just upset in North Carolina. I don't think that'll happen against Georgia, but Georgia, I think, honestly, I really feel like they still get in if they lose the SEC championship game. I really do. I don't know, man. That's something I don't, let's talk about it when we get there. Let's just talk about it when we get there. Because that really muddies up the waters of who deserves to get in the playoff. But let's go ahead and talk about my Heisman hopefuls. But real quick, I think Hendon Hooker, I think would have won the Heisman this year. I really do. I don't think, outside of this past week, there was one other player that I think probably could have been put in the conversation with Hendon Hooker, but I think Hendon Hooker was the runaway favorite. I really do. Even if he would have lost that South Carolina game, he didn't lose that game. That defense could not stop South Carolina. And Hendon Hooker just kept scoring and scoring and scoring. Like, he was keeping up when this defense was just not helping. the dude had a magical year. Now he heads off to the NFL. I really hope that they still invite him to the ceremony. I just think this does take him out of contention for the Heisman. I just wanted to say that before we get into my Heisman list. So let's go ahead and do that with number 5, Drake May. I will say this, Max Duggan? Is it Max Duggan? I don't think it's Max Duggan. It is Max Duggan, right? Because now that I say this out loud, I don't like. It is Max Duggan. Why did I question myself? Welcome to my life. Basically, I always question everything I say. Which, honestly, it's not bad. But Drake May, listen, the dude's still putting up buku points. He is a big reason why North Carolina has done so well this year. Ran into his first game where he did not score a touchdown. Who would have thought it would have been a game they lost in? But yeah, no, he's been playing good football. I don't feel it right taking him off the list just yet, though Max Duggan's really close. With Blake Corum sounding like he is going to return, I still have Blake Corum up here. He had a really good first half against Illinois, and then obviously he got hurt, I think going into halftime in that game. And luckily, it sounds like it's not serious. He's going to play against Ohio State, which is good. I think there's other running backs you could probably make a case for that are in contention, like Mo Ibrahim has been the offense for Minnesota. So I think there's a case you can make that he's up there in terms of like maybe running back of the year. You could say Bijan as well. I think there's a couple of backs in the run in there, but I think Blake just kind of edges him out. My number 3 it's Bo Nix. Bo Nix, man, he's putting up a very good season. Like, he played a solid game against Utah. He's able to win with his feet, and this team's fortunate for that. Oregon's doing as well as they are because Bo Nix is playing good football on the season. So we had to put him up here. Now, time to talk about C.J. Stroud, who didn't really have an impressive game, but had a good game against Maryland. Did what needed to get done, to be fair. He does a lot of the heavy lifting to get this team into scoring position, and the running backs, they end up scoring a lot of red zone TDs because of C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud's playing real good, and I honestly think they're going to beat Michigan. I really do. You heard it here first. I think a lot of people probably think that too. And then Caleb Williams, man. I think there was going to be especially considering that Tennessee likely, even if Hendon Hooker didn't get hurt, were on their way to lose that game. I still think you could I think there would have been a case to be made for Caleb Williams, who has had a very good season. He's put this team on his back. He is throwing out of his mind there. There's a good case. He is the Pac-12 Hendon Hooker at this point. And I think, like I said, even with Hendon Hooker, if he didn't get hurt, he still likely lost that game. I think Caleb Williams would have been right up there in the running. Right now, at this point, now with Hendon Hooker unfortunately injured, I think it's Caleb Williams' race to lose. I think he is the odds-on favorite. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. I got to rambling, but it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.